Okay, so in this episode of Gadget, we're going to be looking at digital education. Hehe, Matrix. More importantly, we're going to be kind of looking at module design, an overall design of how we design a module with kind of digital education considerations in mind. So, kind of first thing I thought of, you've got to think, where do you sit on the spectrum? I love a good spectrum. And so we've got this. On the far left there, you can see it's the combination of face-to-face. And let's be honest, it can't be purely face-to-face. We have to do some digital. Because ultimately our stuff has to be put online, or something has to be put online for students that didn't attend, etc. And then on the far right there, you can see it's purely digital, purely kind of online learning. So there's varying degrees there, and for amusement's sake, I've kind of come up with different categories for each one. So to begin with, there we have Inspector Gadget. I don't know if you saw the cartoons as a child, or even the film as a child. So once again, predominantly a man, but with a few gadgetry aids. Next in the middle there, we have Robocop. So that is real half and half. And then further on the right there, my favourite ever character in Star Wars, R2-D2. Okay, so let's have a look at all these then. So we'll start with Inspector Gadget. So this is really, once again, technology aiding teaching. So you're teaching still core about you, and you're just using these little bits, of technology that really kind of help what you do, if required. I'm a big advocate of this. It's TEL, technology enhanced learning. This is why I haven't used many of the models in this presentation, because there is a nasty assumption that technology enhances learning, but that isn't always the case. So therefore, we've got the technology aided teaching. Once again, we can't control learning, we can only control teaching. It is very synchronistic, which means there's a very set pattern to it. 1 hour lecture, 2 hour seminar, or however your system is. Is it things more akin to what we call ABL, so active blended learning? I don't actually like the acronym active blended learning. I prefer activity-based learning. I think that's a bit more of a better thing. So you choose the different activity that will help facilitate that learning, and then your module is a combination of loads of different activities. And that's kind of where Inspector Gadget, go Gadget, arms, legs, helicopter, whatever. So you just choose the best requirement for that moment in time. Although if you ever saw Inspector Gadget, he never did. So you use technology. That's what it's all about. There you go. So it's the human with the technological aids, as I said at the beginning. So some things to consider. It reflects the traditional learning journey, so it's, as I say, you're just taking, in effect, what you do and making it a bit more digital. So your lecture is still kind of focused on you speaking and things like that. The seminars are around what you need them to do, set them a task, tell them to go away, come back, and you can do that virtually as well as you can do that in a classroom. Research aids, once again, you can give them loads of textbooks, or you can do that online. So it really is, pedagogy kind of is more at the forefront of it, and you're literally just taking what you're currently doing and developing the digital side of it. It is very lecture controlled, as I said. Without you, there is no lecture. Without you, there is no seminar. So it is really focused on the lecture, the lecturer, which once again, I suppose I could have done that as maybe a negative as well, because what if the lecturer doesn't really know their stuff, etc. So there are some elements there, but I suppose it's you controlled, so it doesn't mean to say you have to deliver the lecture. You could then just show them a video of, whoever the person is in the field that's the best person. There we go. So it's lecture centric. That's what I'm kind of trying to say there as well. So it's red and green. So it's only as good as you are. And if you're not that engaging offline, you won't be that engaging online. Just like Inspector Gadget wasn't actually that great just because he had all them gadgets. Still wasn't a great inspector. It's his niece Penny that did all the work, if memory serves. And students have to attend, so it is a little bit inflexible. They have to do the 1 hour then and the 2 hour then. And one thing I'm definitely finding during lockdown is it kills you sat at a computer for 2 hours, sat at a meeting for 2 hours. It's so draining. And then once again, it's kind of, I personally dislike it, because I say if you have to be somewhere at 9 till 10, say on a Tuesday, I might as well come into work and be, because then I have at least all the personal contacts and things like that. So the students have to attend, and it's a very much a things have to sit in the same time frame and the time scales and things like that. So let's move on to Robocop then. So Robocop, I've kind of defined that as technology facilitating teaching. It's a mixture of technology and person. However, is this akin to what we call flipped learning? So some of it's pure technology based, some of it's pure lecture based, face-to-face based, and things like that. But it is symbiotic and codependent. Just if you know your Robocop lore, Robocop is a machine but with a human brain. So neither can work without the other. So obviously without the machine the brain would die because it does all the breathing, the eating and processing food and stuff like that. And without the brain the machine would die because it controls the movement and what it does and when they do it, etc. So one cannot survive without the other. There you go. So it's half human, half technology, and it's this codependent way of existing. So is this the best of both worlds? Having a few tasks, a few elements that are purely online that can be done a lot more flexible, so students can do them as and when. So you go, okay guys, I've got 2 videos and a case study. You need to read that before we have the seminar. And therefore, so that's done purely online. You guys have the flexibility, but Wednesday morning, 10 till 12, that's the seminar. I need you to have done all this work before then. So you can see how it's half human, half technology. But then the question is, what do you do if they don't do that work? And this is one of those, this is where theory really lets you down. I've done this before, flipped classrooms, where you give them all the stuff online to do before, and then when they come to class, and if people haven't done it, how do you deal with that? Rightly or wrongly, if you start the session off telling somebody off for not doing the work, they then spend the next, say, 2-hour seminar in a huff with you. Yes, we can all state you should have done the work, and yeah, they really should have, and learners should take ownership of their learning. This is why I keep reinforcing we can't affect learning, we can affect teaching, but they will, and it's not right, it's not fair, but it is the way it is. So if they don't do the work, what are you going to do? Are you then going to let them do the work during the session? In which case, the people that have done the work, what are you going to do with those guys? Because now they're just sat going, well, I did the work, and now I'm just sat here waiting for 10 minutes. Are you going to give them another task to do? Which, if the task enhanced their ability, then there's an argument that you're giving them preferential treatment. I know the argument is the other guy should have done the work, but how are you going to deal with that? If the task is meaningless, well, these guys are probably switched on. That's why they did the work, and they'll probably realise it's meaningless, and they'll stop doing the work, so they'll do the work during the time. So that's the key thing. If you need them to do something beforehand, what are you going to do with the guys that don't do the thing beforehand? That's the key to kind of being a Robocop educator, for want of a better thing. You've really got to work out how you're going to get them to do the work before the face-to-face stuff. And then finally, R2D2, my favourite. So this is technology required teaching. You cannot teach without technology. Within this one, it has to be done. The other one, the Robocop, you could argue you could teach because you could email them. No, that's technology. You could post out a case study or a textbook and say read notes, read chapters 1 and 2 for the first week. So you don't really need the technology. But then when you're conversing the face-to-face stuff, that's more technologically based. This one you need technology. You cannot teach without the technology. A key thing with this is, and this is where I think a lot of it goes a bit wrong, it's asynchronistic, as in the students get to dictate the pace, and that's the key to it. The other ones are very much focused on the very traditional method of we have one seminar a week and we have one lecture a week, and that's how we do it. We do 3 hours of face-to-face stuff, and then you do some stuff on. But this is all asynchronistic. This is the Netflix, the binging, that kind of has become quite big at the moment. So this is it's really hard because you put it out there and you just got to trust that students will do it and do it at a reasonable pace. And just because it's not your pace, I know myself and a lot of people, we get frustrated. We go, look, we give you something every week to develop. Every week I give you a new part of the assignment. So when it comes to that last week, you're already 90% there. So you don't need, So it then gets frustrating that they kind of go, I haven't done anything. You go, well, if you'd have done a little bit every week. But anyway, as I say, don't judge Don't judge others by yourself, your own standards, etc. And so that's asynchronistic. So yeah, okay, we've done it so that there's kind of 6-7 hours worth of content per week, which is what we do. You know, the 3 hours face to face, the more hours that they need to do by themselves. But ultimately, if they cram all that 70 plus hours, 100 hours or whatever, 150 hours into 1 week rather than 12 weeks, and that's their deal, and that's their learning style, and that's what we've just got to accept. And that's kind of what I mean by asynchronistic. They choose the time frame. You've given a deadline, the assignment must be in this date, but all the learning stuff, they do it when they want. It is online learning, it is technology. There's no two ways about it, there's no mixture there. It's all technology. So consideration time is not a factor. So as I say, students can do that. You know, more and more because we are a business, we will accept students up to 7 weeks late in the semester. You know, and therefore, how can they catch up? Well, if this is the way you're teaching, then it's very easy to catch up because it was never planned to be 2 hours a week, and they had to be involved for 2 hours a week. You know, so time isn't the factor. As I said, the learners get the choice when they do it. So that's quite nice. That seems to be a big thing with children nowadays. I want a choice. You know, I remember a colleague of mine saying that's all her 5-year-old son would say. I want a choice, mummy. At nursery, I get given a choice. I want a choice. You know, and suddenly the choice I had as a child, you either eat or don't eat, isn't considered a good enough choice anymore. So this is the autonomy for the learners. You know, and if you're a fan of Dan Pink's motivation, you know, 3 key areas of motivation: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So giving them the autonomy. This, you know, you learn when you want to learn, guys. Off you go. If you're most active at 3 a.m. then crack on. You know, I'm not running seminars at 3 a.m. because I'm not most active then. But I don't need to because there's no face-to-face element. So there you go. I think I've kind of covered that. Question though is, do the students have the organisation and the self-motivation for this style? Do they have that dedication to do it? You know, a lot of, say, athletes are that good because they are that dedicated. It always makes me laugh, ironically, you know, things like Sports Personality of the Year, and a lot of the top athletes are not always that personable, but it's because they've spent 10,000 hours perfecting that one kick or that one pass or that one save, and they've put so much time and effort into doing that skill that they kind of don't have many of the other skills. And you know, and that's what makes a good athlete, that dedication, that, you know, that, what is it, you know, still stood out in the rain when everyone else has gone home, practicing. Do our students have that motivation for, and that ability to learn that way? You go, look, you know, it's about however many hours a week. I suggest you do that, but ultimately it is up to you. And will they fall behind, will they not, etc. And once again, if it's all digital, you got the classic, can they access? You know, we're a global village nowadays. But some places still don't like some websites. So through no fault of their own, they can't access a YouTube or a Google or a, you know, I'm not even talking about technological requirements. Do they have the latest Flash, etc.? I think I'll come up about that in a second. You know, so how are you going to deal with that as well? That kind of does lead me on to then this. Oh, another thing then, it is time consuming to set up. It takes an awful lot of time to create one of these online learning courses, but as I say there, the rinse and repeat is easier. Once you've done it, it's very easy just to roll it out again. Kind of links me on to then things to consider. So key things to consider is you, your students and your institution. So you've got to look at who you are, what you can do, etc., what your students will accept, and what your institution can do for you as well. So I always like the acronym SFA. When judging anything, you've got to look at SFA. It isn't technically SFA, but I like it because of the naughty word that also says. So S, suitability. Is this style of learning suitable to you? I.e., do you have the capability to do all online? You know, do you have the technology to do the half and half stuff that you want to do? Are you happy doing that? Are you comfortable doing that? You know, I'm a big believer in kind of De Bono's 6 thinking hats, and one of the key hats that we always overlook is the emotions. Are you happy to do it that way? No one ever asks us that as staff, do they? Are you happy to do that? Would you like to do that? It's always, this is the way it's done. If you have a problem with it, find a way to get over it. We seem to ignore the emotions, but humans are emotional beings, and we need to be aware of that. Same with the students. Are they happy for you to do it that way? Did they pay for an online course? Would they prefer a lot more face-to-face? Also, doesn't matter what they say, because we have to do what's best for them. So sometimes we may have to do something that's not what they say they want, but we know it is what they want. Same again with the institution. Would they like it if you actually did it that way? So many institutions are student focused, but as we said, a lot of students don't really know what they want. So it creates this nasty juxtaposition. Students saying they want it one way, you deliver it a different way, and they say, oh yeah, I actually preferred it that way. But they've already told the institution they preferred it a different way. Feasible? Can you actually do that? There's loads of things I'd love to create online, but I just don't have the ability. I just don't have the coding knowledge and things like that. So, there's a brilliant game that I've created. That was very egotistical, wasn't it? There's a game that I've created that I'd love to launch. It really teaches GCSE business particularly. But I just don't have the capability to turn it into a game. It's just a PowerPoint for me at the moment. And I have to run it. So it is very much a Inspector Gadget. Oh no, actually it's very much a Robocop. I have to be there and I have to run it, but I need the PowerPoint because of all the information and the things that it's got there. So, feasible, can you actually do it? Once again, can students do this? We bang on about how students have grown up during the technological era. Well, they have, but they've never used technology in that way. Throughout my entire life, I've always grown up with an oven. I've never not had an oven. That doesn't make me Mary Berry. I can't whip you up a sponge or anything like that. Okay, so can the students actually do that? And same with the institution. They're so scared about things like data protection. So all this crazy online stuff, what is it, Zoom? Zoom was hacked a while ago and stuff like that, and how secure is Padlet? If we use Padlet and all these other online forums that we don't have licenses to because the institution won't buy it, which is a different thing about feasibility. We have to use the freeview versions rather than the full versions and things like that. And then the acceptability. I like to think the acceptability think of the acceptability as well of what is the outcome, what are you trying to aim to do? Because I love team development. That's kind of one of my passions. That was my job before I started teaching, was team development. And a lot of online learning wouldn't really help with team development. Also over the summers I coach rugby. So, and I cannot do an R2D2 course for rugby. It is a physical skill. It requires human intervention and things like that. So it's, so what's the outcome? Yeah, thankfully for most of us we're teaching just a theoretical concept, so this isn't much of an issue. But you've got to be aware of that. If you're asking them to create something, then how is the way we teach it going to help them develop it? Once again, works for you, student, institution, etc. So when developing an online module, or when developing a module taking into consideration digital education, where do you sit on the spectrum? Where do you want it to be? Be honest. Are you Inspector Gadget? Kind of predominantly it's all focused on you with a few technological aids. Are you Robocop, a real symbiotic half and half? Or are you happy to be R2D2, just to leave it out, put it out there, create it, put it out there and let it do its thing? And then you've got to take into consideration you, the institution, and the students. So things like suitability, feasibility, acceptability, capability, timings. How long do you have all this to do all this stuff, etc. Okay, thanks for watching this episode on kind of module design, digital education. Please do add a comment in the comments box. So that we can try and get a bit of if you've got any questions, you can put them down there. If people have got answers, we can put them up, etc. Please remember, if you did like the video, to like the video. It just helps me with my data analysis, which I then give to the students to help analyse the data. So I use my channel actually as a teaching tool. Share it. I'm happy for you to share it with other colleagues, maybe not in the institutions I work in, but once again, I want to create a community practice and a community feel of education. And then also, if you do like it and you do want to know more, subscribe, because there's loads of thoughts and ideas coming up on Matagogy all the time. Okay, thanks very much for your time. Thanks for watching.